Welcome back. Now, ITA's event has been given 20 bursaries by IT Varsity to give away to Muslim males or females any age as long as they are zakatable. Now, it is a one-year online course called Digital Entrepreneurship, teaching on how to code, create simple websites and apps for a phone, as well as how to write a business plan along with marketing skills. This knowledge will set many of the students on the path of being independent, kick-starting their career. Joining us, I'd like to welcome from IT Varsity, Dr. Bilal Kathrada. Bilal, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and jazakallah so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam, and it's a pleasure to be here.
I think, Bilal, looking at this, it's not just, an ordinary bursary. I mean, this is sort of like a bursary that allows for a sort of holistic view of how you can already begin your skills as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I don't actually like calling it a bursary, but just, for people's understanding, we're calling it a bursary. But it's actually an entrepreneurial development program, which focuses on, three levels, actually. The training, the mentorship, and the practical aspect, meaning starting a business. The objective here is not just to get one certificate and say, I got some skills, but to start a business. So every single one of those people that are in the program will actually start an actual business.
Bilal, let's start off, of course, on the importance of this, because, we're at a time where we've got unemployment that's kind of like on a high. You've got despondent students that are, really looking at themselves and asking, how do we go ahead and create something that is worthwhile, in the future? So how much does this allow them to say, okay, let's take a different view on how the world needs to be going forward?
I like what you say about a different view, because we have too much of this straight and narrow view in terms of careers and income. We've still got this very traditional idea that a child will go to school and then, from primary school to high school and then tertiary and get a job. But people don't realize that maybe existed in the 60s, 70s, perhaps the 80s, but it hasn't been like that for decades, because the average person changes jobs now every 6 years. But besides that, I mean, when you look at the job market, the bad news is that the global employment sector is on a decline. But the good news is entrepreneurship has never been easier, right? The barriers to entry to entrepreneurship have almost completely disappeared. Before, you needed a business, you needed capital, you needed staff, you needed stocks, you needed so many things. Today, with nothing more than a cell phone, you can start and run a successful business. So this is where we come in. We come in with the skills that you can use with minimal infrastructure, with using technology alone, to start and run a successful business, no matter what business you want to get into. So we're not prescriptive about the type of business, but we are providing the basic foundation for running a business, no matter what your skills are. You could be a carpenter, you could be a baker, you could be a cook, but how do you take that skill and convert it into a successful online business? And that's what we are training them with.
Yeah. Something interesting there, Bilal, is that, many times, the traditional way of finding a career, and many of our parents would say, okay, so listen, when you finish, you have to either become doctor, or you become a lawyer, or you become in my case, I ended up being a journalist. So I went against the norm. But, the traditional parts, so an accountant, many, especially, the accounting field. Now, obviously, you see that these careers are kind of shrinking. If you look at latest studies where this now requires you to go ahead and get a degree. And then obviously after that, your honors and your masters. So you need to go ahead and keep on, putting yourself on a different level in terms of, your tertiary studies. But what we're not missing, and it's interesting that you brought that, is this idea of saying, okay, the world needs more carpenters, the world needs more bakers, or the world needs more, plumbers, because those are skills that are very difficult to tap in. And that is a skill that you as a person can own. How much of that needs to be inculcated to many of the youth of our country, that there is another world outside of just going to the traditional universities?
Well, I think there's a simple answer to that. I mean, we can see that mathematically. I mean, when you look at last year's matric pass rate, 87%, excellent. But when you look at the bigger picture, I mean, those matriculants started school in 2013, and there were about 1.2 million of them. Only about 740,000 wrote the matric exams, and out of those, we got us 87% pass, which is great. But now, if you whittle that number down further, you'll see that only 52,000 out of 1.2 million went to university or are going to go to university. And out of those 52,000, only 15% are going to actually graduate from university. So 15% of 52,000, you're looking at about 7.5, between 8 and 10,000 people. So 1.2 million go into grade 1. 10,000, let's say best case scenario, graduate from university. Question, what happens to all those in between? You know, those lost numbers. Now, if we could show them that, hey, university is great for those who want to go into it, those who want to study professional qualifications like engineering, medicine, accounts, that's great. But there are also myriad of opportunities out there that are not in the mainstream, but are also very, very lucrative if you do it right. So I think when you look at those numbers, it highlights the necessity of opening our kids' minds and their eyes to what's out there. Unfortunately, at school, the kind of guidance, and I'm coming from a school background, I used to be a school teacher also, we tend to focus just on that academic route, school, university, job. I think it's time to change that because the world has changed considerably also.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the world changing considerably. We are in the fourth industrial revolution, and a lot of it, is down to digital technology. Now, creating of apps, creating of websites has now become a big part of the way we do things. I mean, I'd like to feel, and then you can agree or disagree with me, Bilal, that apps on phones are now the biggest supposed way of dealing with it, because not only is it convenient, it allows you, the consumer, to get what you want at the right time, at the right place, the instant gratification live. From your maybe experience, Bilal, how far are we in many students really taking this route of creating apps that can make a difference, and of course them applying their mind with regards to that?
There's such a big move towards apps, and the simple reason is go to any public gathering, go to any school, go to any restaurant, and what are people looking at? They're not reading newspapers, they're not reading books, they're looking at their devices, right? They're looking at their phones. So the eyeballs are there, and if we as a community, as business people, are not taking advantage of where the eyeballs are, then we are actually shooting ourselves in the foot. And, as much as, we've got giant players like Amazon, for example, in the e-commerce space, there's still billions of rands of opportunities for other businesses to get into the e-commerce space and start taking advantage of that. And those businesses are going to need web designers, app developers, digital marketers, copywriters, content creators, people who have these skills and who are able to escalate a business from traditional brick and mortar to the online space, because that's where the future is. So I don't disagree with you. I do disagree. I do agree with you 100% that there's a big need for people to either, okay, it's a bit nuanced, right? So either they will create apps for the businesses that they are working for or their own businesses, or they'll leverage existing apps, for example, WhatsApp for business or TikTok for business. So they need to learn to leverage those to take their businesses online. And I think those who are prepping for that from now are going to dominate the future.
After the break, I continue my conversation with Dr. Bilal Kathrada. Of course, we're discussing an opportunity for 20 bursaries, well, he'd like to call it entrepreneurial opportunities for 20 Muslim males or females. We'll have more for you after this break. Welcome back. I'm still in conversation with Dr. Bilal Kathrada from IT Varsity. Of course, through Itazi events, they're giving away 20 bursaries to Muslim males and females as long as they are zakatable. I'm going to touch on that in a bit, Bilal, but I want to talk about something, and of course, you have extensive knowledge on this, that there's a record number of bachelor degrees and the universities are struggling. How is this going to be dealt with, given that, when you look at the rates of passing and you look at the job space right now, it's really very small, isn't it?
The job space is, I won't say it's small, but it's definitely shrinking, right? The formal employment sector is definitely on a decline. And not to sound too critical, I mean, I used to lecture at universities and I still do. I don't think degree programs have managed to keep up with the pace of change in the world that's happening, both in terms of technology as well as in terms of society, the way society has changed. I mean, a typical degree program takes about 6 or 7 years to be updated. And by the time they update, the world has already moved on another 6 or 7 years or 15 years. I mean, think about your iPhone, which I always use as a good benchmark. Sure. Every second year, there's a new iPhone coming out. That shows the pace of change of technology. Now, a 3 or 4 year degree means that you're going to be in university and you're going to be like 4 times outdated before you get out into the world. So things have changed. And if I have one criticism to of our universities, who are doing a good job, they're trying their best, but it's that you need to introduce more shorter programs, micro-learning, vocational training. That's where the world needs to be right now. We need to turn out professionals in a much shorter space of time than we used to. So graduate them, put them out into the workplace.
And it comes to the next question with regards to this mindset. I know we spoke about it in the first segment, Bilal, is that the supposed cultural thought that universities are the be-all and end-all, but when you look at somebody like a Steve Jobs, I mean, nobody really looks at him as some sort of a university genius. They're going to remember him for being the man that created Apple and, of course, this conglomerate which has taken over the world with so many products. The same can be said about someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who was, had a lot of problems during his university days, but has created Meta, which is dominating the world in terms of apps. Now, South Africa has the ability to find itself a Zuckerberg or a Jobs. And this exact course that is being offered, how much does that allow for South Africans to really show their brilliance and their talent in terms of creating apps, websites, and just the digital space all around?
I love that question. Firstly, I love the examples that you gave and also your question. So with regard to the examples, right, did you know in South Africa, okay, one is we speak about university dropouts, but on the other hand, there's another huge category of people. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's about half of all university graduates who do something completely different to what they actually graduated to do. Which makes you question, what did they spend 3 or 4 years studying at university to do? So that shows that the world of work is so fluid, things are so dynamic that you could, for example, graduate as a industrial psychologist and end up as a software engineer or vice versa. So things are very different. Now, when it comes to the other point about getting people ready for opportunities like Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg did. See, the advantage they had and the advantage that young people in the US up till today still have is that they have a culture around entrepreneurship. And there's this entire support base around entrepreneurship, particularly in Silicon Valley, right? In San Francisco.
Yes.
Why do you think so many startups come out from there? Because there's this culture. So I always maintain that if I had a year to train a person to be an entrepreneur, I'd spend 51 weeks giving that person an entrepreneurial mindset, which is an abundance mindset, a positive mindset, a go-getter mindset. And I'd spend a week teaching that person the actual business skills. But of course, we've now brought both over the whole year. So a big part of what we do, apart from the skills, like the hard technical skills, it's all about the mentorship. I mean, I put out a call on social media for entrepreneurs to join me, and I have like big business people who came forward and said, how can I help? I said, well, we need mentorship. We need to mentor our students so that we can bridge that gap between theory and practical. And the only way to do that is through mentorship. And so that's where the whole mentorship aspect comes in. So yes, they are capable, but they just need that mindset shift, and they need that courage that comes from mentorship.
Bilal, for anyone watching that wants to apply for this course, that wants to take part in it, what would they need to do, please?
Okay, excellent. So you did mention that there were Zakat bursaries. So absolutely, those 20 are Zakat bursaries. But we also have non-Zakat bursaries available for people who don't qualify for Zakat. For example, if you're a Muslim and you've got enough wealth, or for a non-Muslim. So if you know any kids, no matter race, religion, who want to study, the difference is that the Zakat bursaries are 100%. I mean, your fees are paid, but the non-Zakat bursaries are 65%, meaning you only have to pay 35% of your fees, which is actually very, very reasonable. And it's not full-time studies, it's part-time, so you can work while you are studying. So if you are interested, you want to get into entrepreneurship, especially digital entrepreneurship, you want to learn the know-how, we've got lots of digital entrepreneurs who are our lecturers as well as our mentors. Please join us. You can drop me an email, Bilal, Bilal, at itvarsity.org, and just say entrepreneurship, and we'll take it from there.
Bilal, one final question to end this conversation. You spoke of mentorship. This is what the youth need, isn't it? Of course, a lot of them are on social media. One may say for the right or the wrong reasons. Some are lacking a sense of direction. This is it, isn't it? This allows for them to say, let's get involved. Let the business people that are, of course, contributing, let's assist the youth so that there can be a sense of succession that many of us need within this country.
Absolutely. I can't emphasize that. And, part of what we are doing is to unearth these genius entrepreneurs in our communities. I mean, South Africa has produced some of the most amazing entrepreneurs, both those who are running family business as well as those who are running corporates. And we are saying to them, you need to come out of the woodwork, in a manner of speaking, and give these kids mentorship, show them how you've done it. So there is a succession plan so that South Africa continues to produce new entrepreneurs. So it's all about linking the business community with the business people of the future.
Dr. Bilal Kathrada, always a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
That's Dr. Bilal Kathrada from IT Varsity. Of course, he's given his details with regards to just getting involved if you want to, of course, apply for a bursary. And it's a lovely initiative, a one-year online course in just education on the digital space. So that's all we have for you here on News in Focus from myself, for Hospital, and the rest of the team in Johannesburg. Tomorrow, a talking point. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.